Namaste, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I
Yes,
apologize for
Namaste.
such a big
We
delay.
can.
Okay, great.
Namaskaram, Krishna.
Okay, today I was trying to do the impossible, so that's why it was tough. Hold on a second. Let me share the PowerPoint presentation and we'll quickly start this class. I guess you can see my screen.
Yes.
Great. Okay, let's start this now. So this verse, verse 2.4, section 2, this verse seems to be very important. And the more and more I started studying, it became more complicated. So that's why I got into this tailspin of difficulty in understanding this verse. And not that I have understood the verse perfectly now, but I have made some progress, and I want to share with you what I have studied. The problem with this verse is this. This is pretty central to the teaching of Kena Upaniṣad, because the second sentence here says, Ātmana vindate vidyam vidyaya vindate amṛtam. Particularly the last two words here, vidyaya vindate amṛtam, 3 words. That says that with vidya, one can get immortality. That means this verse is telling you the path to immortality. So the method to take up to achieve immortality. Achieving immortality is the essence of whole of Vedanta. That means, why do we study Vedanta? Why do we, instead of going to a movie or anything like that, or just go to the sports field or something and enjoy some sports? Instead of that, why are we studying Vedanta? Tough subject, because it gives you the path to perfection, paths to immortality, paths to moksha, paths to the highest level of bliss possible. Wow, this is promising. If it's so promising, then what is this method? And everything is contained in one verse, and this is hard. And we are talking about something which we cannot see, in the sense that mind, our consciousness, our self, supposed to be the universal self or the individual self, all these are some things which we don't realize immediately because they're not visible. So different acharyas have different views on this particular verse. This separates out different systems of Vedanta, including the systems of the other darshanas, like Nyaya Darshana, Bhartṛprapañca's Parinamavada Darshana. Bhartṛprapañca, I think, was definitely prior to Śaṅkarācārya. And then we have, the school of Kaṇāda. Kaṇāda is supposed to be the rishi who started Vaiśeṣika Mata. And Vaiśeṣika Mata got combined with the Nyāya Mata. Eventually, the Nyāya school, which, so many Nyāya, Jayanta Bhatta, even the rishi, Gautama Rishi, all these schools, Nyaya and Vaisheshika, sort of merged up, and it became some traditional Nyaya, or what they call it as a, one second. So the traditional Nyaya school is from Gautam Rishi, and then it was Jayanta Bhatta and other people who created this large literature of Nyaya. And eventually, the Nyaya became modified into Navya Nyaya by a great person called Gangesha. So that now what you see as really modified Nyaya school has been, are all output of the minds from West Bengal in a way, because Gangesha is from West Bengal. And I think even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu studied Navya Nyaya and then later on gave up Nyaya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bhakti is the only way. Forget about this Nyaya. So the Nyaya school itself has gone through a lot of transformation.
Shall I have one word?
Sure.
See, Nyaya, Navina Nyaya is called Gautama's, that is logic. Prachina Nyaya is Vaisheshika. That is how we study in Pathshala.
See, one second. Let me clarify this here. See, Vaisheshika is from Kaṇāda Rishi, right?
Yes. Later on they mingled, and the Gautama's called as that is Navya Nyaya. Prachina Nyaya is called Vaisheshika Sutra.
See, Gautama Nyaya Sutras are traditional still, because the Gangesha started Navya Nyaya.
Maybe that. But Sankhya Yoga got mixed, and Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika got mixed later on.
Understand. See, the thing is, the Gautama Rishi is also older, right?
Yes, he is the oldest. He started.
So Gautama,
Kaṇāda
is supposed to be 300 BC or 300
Kaṇāda
before.
is the propounder of Vaisheshika.
Yeah. So thing
Very first.
12th century onwards, Gangesha came and changed everything into Navya Nyaya, where Navya Nyaya is nothing more than, nothing, I won't say nothing more than, it involves
logic,
clarity, and exact formal presentation of logic. So
that's true.
That became the core of Gangesha's and later works. But really speaking, Nyaya Kusumanjali and Annam Bhatta's Tarka Sangraha, Nyaya Siddhanta Muktavali, Deepika, all those things are
Vatsyayanas also.
Oh, yeah, they're all traditional works. But Gangesha is the changing point where it became formal Navya Nyaya in a way. That's what I understand. I can clarify this to you later.
Yes, that's what I
studied this pretty much for a number of hours to figure out that there's a big difference here.
That's what I said. Because these two schools got mixed. Sankhya Yoga got mixed later on.
Sankhya Yoga is different. Nyaya and Vaisheshika became one school. And that became Nyaya school. And the importance about this, why are we talking about Nyaya school when we are interested in Vedanta? Well, Nyaya gives you the fundamental logical instruments, logical methodology to analyze any system. So Nyaya is used in Vedanta. So Nyaya is necessary for Vedanta.
100%.
But Nyaya got transformed by each school in a different way. For example, Vedanta Deshika from Vishishtadvaita wrote a work called Nyāya Parishuddhi. Why? Because he did not like some aspects of traditional Nyaya, and he says that Nyaya has to be changed a little bit. The logic has to be changed a little bit. So Nyaya went through a little bit of changes according to the schools of thought, right? So why are we talking about all these things here? We have this Nyaya school, which is also Vaidika Mata in the sense that they respect the Vedas, they agree with the Vedas. And we have, so different schools have different views about particularly consciousness and mind. Here, Śaṅkarācārya takes up few schools of thought which he disagrees with. He first gives his own summary of this verse, his meaning of this verse, then picks up Bhartṛprapañca's view of mind and consciousness and things like that. He disagrees with it. Then he picks up the Kaṇāda's view and he disagrees with it. And then he picks up, I think, Buddhist view, Kshanikavada. Then he disagrees with it. I think if you think about the history, well, these were the schools pretty much out there at that time. There was no Vishishtadvaita. There was no Dvaita as we understand it, right? There are different forms of Dvaita in different ways, maybe different forms of other, like proto-Vishishtadvaita or earlier non-formalized, non-systematized Vishishtadvaita could be there. There were rishis like Audulomi, Ashmaratya, Kasakrishna, and others who are mentioned in the Brahma Sutras, and they had probably different views. But Śaṅkarācārya only picks up 3 views and then disagrees with it. We cannot complete the... See, think about how this works. If you want to study Nyaya, you have to understand Nyaya theory of matter, Nyaya theory of consciousness, Nyaya theory of mind, and how they integrate Nyaya theory of Ishvara. It becomes a very separate subject by itself. Whole Nyaya becomes one subject. Similarly, in fact, if you look at Nyaya, they study, there's some people do PhD in Nyaya. In fact, Alvar has a PhD in Nyaya. So the thing is, what happens is it's a very big subject. Similarly, you can do a PhD in Sankhya and Yoga. So these are all very large systems. Because Sankhya, if you look at Sankhya, how many textbooks are there? Śaṅkarācārya is there, the sutras are there. There's so many different things. So what we're trying to give you an introduction here is, Śaṅkarācārya seems to condemn, attack these different systems of thought, which themselves are complicated and it requires a lot of study. So how do you really go about understanding different systems of thought as related to this verse? What I have done is just take Śaṅkara Bhashya for now. And whenever we need clarification, we'll go deeper. So just understand from his perspective what he does not like about the other systems. That is sufficient for now. Because when we are explaining one verse of Kena Upaniṣad, we cannot take a 3-year course on Nyaya, 2-3 years course on Bhartṛprapañca's view, which we don't even know because we don't have textbooks to understand Bhartṛprapañca's view other than the statements given by the Acharyas. And we cannot understand Buddhism is like an ocean. There are so many schools of Buddhism, right? So the thing is, understanding all those things in depth will be difficult. What we will do is we'll just pick up Śaṅkarācārya's view of understanding of all these systems and why he disagrees with these systems. Now, do you get the idea of what our approach is here? Any doubts on our approach right now?
No, it's perfect.
Okay, perfect. 1 second, let's go further in a minute. Okay. First, let us understand Śaṅkarācārya's view of this verse, and which we already did. See, I am repeating some things because the more and more I try to understand this, there's a lot of doubts which can crop up. So I want to clarify what we did earlier. So I'm just giving you a summary of last class. So pratibodha-viditam, according to Śaṅkarācārya, is through every state of consciousness, Brahman is known through every state of consciousness, is rightly known. Then only you know Brahman. For such a knowledge, by such knowledge, one attains immortality. So knowing Brahman through every state of consciousness leads to immortality somehow. Through one's own self does the real power come. Ātmana vidyate viryam. So the real power comes from within ourselves. And Through self-knowledge, one becomes immortality. Atmajnana leads to immortality. Vidyaya vindate amritam. Vidya is self-knowledge. Through Vidya, you get immortality. This is a very simple overview of Śaṅkarācārya's view on this. We'll go into details a little bit. Highlights of Śaṅkara Bhashya, we already covered, so I'm just giving you some highlights. Śaṅkarācārya first states his position regarding this verse as, look, Brahman, Ātman, self, these are all same thing. There's one. It is Chit Shakti Swarupa. That is, it is the power of consciousness. And it has power is not an attribute here. It is just Swarupa. The very form is consciousness. The substance itself is consciousness, but it is not a substance. It is made of consciousness. Brahman is made of consciousness. So it is innermost essence of all mental perceptions. So all these mental perceptions are witnessed by this consciousness. Mental person, you understand something. Oh, I see this light, I see that. Whatever you understand, so do you understand. So many other beings are understanding, right? For all the cognitions, mental states of everybody, there is one Atma, which is a witness. And it is common to all cognitions. See, this is an interesting point. From an individual perspective, okay, my consciousness is common to all my cognitions, all my mental states. But how about the same Atma is also common to all of your mental states? Somebody else's mental states. That is true, because Atma is one across all beings. That's one Atma, according to Śaṅkarācārya. So Atma is eternal, one, devoid of any distinctions. Like how space is common to a jar, the same space is in a mountain cave, the same space holds on huge objects in this universe, like the earth, the sun, moon, the stars, galaxies, black holes, whatever you can think of, this one space. But these distinctions are external to it. Within the space, there is no distinction. So upadhis are external. Space is one without any distinctions. The upadhis or other things give a feeling that space is broken up into pieces, but space is never broken up into pieces. Space is not delimited by anything. So the upadhis themselves are not attributes of this space, right? The upadhis, like a jar or a cup, is not the attribute of the space. It's just a delimiter. It is external to it. Similarly, the nature of a branch of a tree is not the nature of the moon. We are referring to, oh, look at that moon, it is behind this branch, we say. But the nature of the branch itself is not the nature of moon. So the upadhi is separate thing. Upadhi is only a pointer to the thing we are thinking about, that is the space. Upadhi is a pointer to the moon, or upadhi is also pointer to the Atma. Today, what we are talking about, that is the main subject of this verse. So, upadhis may have different attributes, but the Atma does not have attributes. Space does not have attributes. But you can say, okay, this is a pot space, this is jar space, this is a space in the cave of this mountain, things like that. But Atman is attributeless. So here, go further. Brahman is different from known and unknown. I'm only taking the essence of Śaṅkara Bhashya here, not going step by step. So Brahman is different from known and unknown. You may know some things, you may not know some things, but all these things will become objects of knowledge eventually. But Brahman is not an object of knowledge. Brahman is just a subject. It is the witness. It is the seer. So the great verse from the Brihadaranyaka 3.4.2 states, it is the seer of the sight, hearer of the hearing, knower of the thoughts, but cannot be known. Na drishtehe drashtaram pashyehe, na shruter shrotaram shrunuya, na mater mantaram manmithaha, na vijñater vijñataram vijaniyaha. That means you don't know the thinker of the thoughts, the seer of the sight, the hearer of the sounds. The mater mantaram is the knower of the mind. You cannot know. So, Eshate Atma Sarvantaraham Ato Anyadartam. So, this is your Atma which is inside everything, but everything else is trivial, not worth it. This is the idea. So, you cannot know the seer of the sight. You cannot know the thinker of the thoughts. That's a very important point you need to understand. So, the Brahman is never known. But how can you know Brahman? That is what this shloka is saying. In every cognition, you know Brahman as the witness. That's all. In every state of your mind, there are so many states of your mind depending on the thoughts, vrittis. But there is one witness, which is distinct, which is not conditioned by any of your mental states. But only because of that, Brahman, you even know your mental states. Okay. Now, understanding this is, we so far covered Śaṅkarācārya's highlights on this particular verse. Now we come and say Parinamavada of Bhartṛprapañca. And what Bhartṛprapañca say is, look, Ātman is known by its actions and effects. The action is what? Knowing. Ātman knows and it enables knowing. Similar to branches of a tree shaking. Okay, who is shaking it? Nobody is there. I can't see anybody shaking the tree. No, there is wind. The wind is actually shaking the tree. So the wind has this attribute, the ability to shake the branches of a tree. So you say that the Atma has the attribute of knowing. You can say that. And according to Bhartṛprapañca, Atma is not made of consciousness. It's just a substance that acquires the attribute of knowledge. So it's something which acquires the attribute of knowledge when knowledge happens. When knowledge is not there, there is no attribute of knowledge. But the substance is separate. So this Atman is not made of consciousness, but it just acquires the phase of knowing and phase of not knowing. So knowledge appears and knowledge goes away from this. When knowledge appears, it becomes intelligent. When knowledge goes away, it becomes non-intelligent substance. So Atman is a substance which accidentally gets an attribute of knowing, and the attribute of knowing goes away. If you think this way, what's going to happen? Self itself undergoes change depending on different thoughts. The self itself is knowing. He is a knower, right? And he, because of the changes in the knowledge, the self goes through change according to Bhartṛprapañca. As opposed to self witnessing changes. See, self as a distinct entity witnessing changes is different things. Right? In space, we see a pot of water, or a pot of water being carried by a lady walking in a village. She's walking, and the pot, the pot seems to be moving, but the space doesn't move. Space doesn't act. So this is Śaṅkarācārya's view that it is like space. But for Bhartṛprapañca, all actions, the Ātman itself engages in action. So Ātman has kartritva, agency in actions. And Ātman, because it has to make so many things happen, knowing, thinking, acting, walking, running, hating, liking, all these things happen by Ātman changing, according to Bhartṛprapañca. According to Śaṅkarācārya, Ātman is only witness, no changes. So, according to Bhartṛprapañca, you have to understand that the Ātman is made of parts. And it is transient in the sense that it acquires the characteristics and there is no characteristic afterwards. That becomes impure. It becomes subject to changes and eventually destruction. Whatever changes will probably get destroyed someday. That basically misrepresents the true nature of Ātman according to Śaṅkarācārya. But Bhartṛprapañca keeps on into this Brahma Parinamavada. You can say, oh, why did Bhartṛprapañca even accept such a view? This is very complicated. The reason is, Tatha Swayam Atmanagam Swayam Akuruta, the Upanishad says, he became this universe. There are Atma Kritehe Parinamat. There is a sutra in the Brahma Sutras. Atma Kritehe Parinamat. He subjects himself to Parinama. Atma Kritehe. I'm not going to details of Sutra Bhashya here. I'm not going to the details of the commentaries on this sutra. But there are references in the Upanishads where the parinama or change to self is indicated. But Śaṅkarācārya denies it, saying that is wrong understanding. This is the same thing as per Hiranyana's text. I'll just skip it. The summary is, according to Bhartṛprapañca, Brahman is changeable, composed of parts, transient, impure, and so on. That we know now. Now, Śaṅkarācārya obviously says that is wrong view. And why? Even in the Vedas it is said that Brahman is not changeable. Nirvikara, Shuddha, pure. And Niravayava. Avayava means parts. It does not have any parts. All these things are indicated in the Vedic Shruti statements. So this is not acceptable to Śaṅkarācārya. Now he takes up Kaṇāda view. In the Kaṇāda view, it is similar in a way. Look at Kaṇāda view. It sort of looks similar to Bhartṛprapañca view, but there is a small change. What is that? Kaṇāda also says knowledge comes and goes. But how can knowledge come? Knowledge comes when the conscious, that is the self, comes in contact with mind. So the mind is so the real changes don't happen to the self. The changes happen to the mind. Just let me think about it. What it is basically the changes directly don't happen to the self, which is the central. I just indicated self as something covered with something, right? This covering, we will just take it as a mind. So self operates through the mind, but self itself does not get changed through any cognition. In any mental state, the self is not changing, the mind is changing, right? That is Kaṇāda's view. In Bhartṛprapañca view, there is no, the self itself changes when cognitions change, when mental states change. And self undergoes through actual transformation. So that is the difference between Bhartṛprapañca view and Kaṇāda view. Now, let's go back here. Why does Śaṅkarācārya say Kaṇāda view is wrong? Kaṇāda view also has this issue that the self is spoken as a knower. Self does not change, but it becomes endowed with attributes, as a jar becoming associated with a color when it comes with the contact, comes with the contact of fire, with fire, right? When a pot is baked, the pot gets a color. So even here, Brahman is not conscious consciousness. It is mere substance. It is devoid of intelligence, but due to mental connection, it gets intelligence, right? That becomes contradictory to the Shrutis. Brahman is pure knowledge. Prajnanam Brahma, it says. Intelligence is Brahma. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Anando Brahmeti Vyajanat. Brahman is bliss. All these things will not work. These statements go against the view of Kaṇāda. For Kaṇāda, consciousness is an accidental attribute of self. It is not the nature of self. It is accidental, and that is not acceptable to the Shruti Vakya. Further, Śaṅkarācārya argues, what is this? How can mind come in contact with self? For self to get knowledge, mind has to connect with self. Self is partless, no parts, no surface. When there is no surface or no, how can mind even connect or come in contact with self? That itself is an error. Then Śaṅkarācārya modifies his argument, saying, okay, the Kaṇāda people, even for Kaṇāda people, self is, I think, all-pervading. So he says, because self is all-pervading, this has to be, everything has to be contained in the self. The mind is contained in the self. So naturally, self is always connected with the mind. Mind is inside self. So if you take that view, Śaṅkarācārya says, look, then self should always have knowledge because it's always connected with mind. And all possible knowledge should be there with self. That is not acceptable because knowledge arises based on certain definite conditions. You go walk out of the home and look at the sun and say, oh, now I see the sun, it's bright. But when you were inside the home, you couldn't see the sun and you didn't know about the sun, or you didn't get the connect with the sun. So knowledge keeps on changing. It arises due to certain conditions, some definite conditions. This is not possible to hold on to in the view of Kaṇāda, according to Śaṅkarācārya, because Kaṇāda says self is always connected with the mind. And if it is connected with the mind, all the cognitions and knowledge should all be there together in self. And so knowledge arising at a particular time due to particular conditions is not explicable by Kaṇāda. One more problem, Śaṅkarācārya says. Look at how Kaṇāda is explaining that it is coming into contact with mind and all those things. Śaṅkarācārya says, there is no attachment for Ātman. Ātman is detached. Asangaha. Asanga means it's detached. So, when Ātman cannot be associated or it cannot come to in touch with anything, how can it come in touch with mind?
Question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if it is not connected, then how does the consciousness or Ātman or Brahman get the knowledge? It has to, because it is an observer, right? So it needs to observe. In order to observe it, it needs to have some kind of thing or connection, right? Like without that, how does it observe? Brahman, how does Brahman
See,
observe?
in
If it is not connected to mind.
Okay. In the case of Śaṅkarācārya, Brahman says Brahman observes, right? Really speaking, according to Śaṅkarācārya, Brahman is not the knower at all. And even loosely, they mention it as Brahman is observer. Brahman doesn't observe anything. What really is the observer is mind and all the mind and the universe put together, right? So the thing is, according to Śaṅkarācārya, there is no pure witness. The witness also goes away. Brahman becomes non-witnessing, objectless cognition.
Okay. Because it is on the other side of Maya.
Correct. On
You
the
used
other
to
side
draw
of
a
Maya,
line,
and
right?
it doesn't even know there is a Maya.
Yeah, you used to draw a line, right? Like in that egg shape, like the Brahman is on the other side, the true Brahman is on the other side.
Yeah, see, the thing is, that line is very powerful line.
Yeah. So the actual Brahman is on the other side, and there is now I get it.
So
Thanks.
the thing is, Brahman never gets involved with anything. Asanga in that sense. So Brahman is not even in contact with the mind.
Yeah.
So what happens is, what you see in the Vyavaharika universe or the Vyavaharika relative reality, there is a mind, there is a knower, there is a Jivatma. Śaṅkarācārya accepts all the things accepted by the Nyaya people on the in the Vyavaharika state.
Yeah.
Somebody is upset, somebody is angry, somebody is jealous. Yeah, there is somebody, there is a Jivatma, and there is a mind which comes in contact with that person's Jivatma. All are illusory according to Śaṅkarācārya, but he accepts only in a relative sense, not in the absolute.
Yeah, I get it.
So here, the statements he brings in from the Upanishads only to mention the absolute state. It is unattached.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay. So
Then I just have a question. If the Brahman doesn't have a role at all, then how does he become so powerful?
what did you say? I didn't hear you properly. Speak.
No, you said that Brahman is not the knower. He does not get involved in anything, and it's only the mind and the other attributes that really feel or know things. That means Brahman is above everybody. If he's above everybody and doesn't understand anything and not involved in anything, how does he get his power?
See, Brahman and power cannot be separated. But the Brahman is the cause of the power in everything else. So the thing is, Brahman, without Brahman, nothing, without Brahman, all this universe doesn't exist. The dreamer and the dream doesn't exist. See, for Śaṅkarācārya, the whole universe is a dream, and the dreamers are also a dream, right? In that sense,
He's the power behind everything.
see, okay, that what Śaṅkarācārya says is Brahman is not the one which has the power. I think your question is important. Let me slow down here, and try to explain the nature of Śaṅkarācārya's view here. Right? Think about the statement in the Vedas. It says Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It says Brahma is truth, consciousness, unlimited. So this is what this verse is saying. Śaṅkarācārya, or then is truth the attribute of Brahman? Is consciousness the attribute of Brahman? Is the eternality or being unconditioned attribute of Brahman? Why can't it be taken as attribute of Brahman? Satyam. So Brahman is truth in the sense that truth is the nature of Brahman. So we can say truth is attribute of Brahman. Jnanam, consciousness, is the attribute of Brahman. And then unlimitedness is an attribute of Brahman. We can say that, right? Śaṅkarācārya denies it. Then how can you not say that there is no, if you can say that there is an object without any attributes, is that possible? Śaṅkarācārya says that is exactly why we are saying Brahman cannot be denoted as an object like this is Brahman, look at this, that is Brahman. Oh, no, not that one, this one is Brahman. This, you cannot make a Brahman into an object. If Brahman cannot be made to an object, how do you reach Brahman? By the neti method. That is, this is not Brahman, that is not Brahman. No, mind is not Brahman. No, intelligence is not Brahman. My buddhi or intelligence is definitely not Brahman. So you have to go away from everything you know into the unknowable. But that unknowable is causing everything happen. So unknowable doesn't have any attributes. But without the unknowable, this relative world don't exist. The dreamer, the person being deluded in the illusion, the Maya, and everything does not exist without that Brahman. Brahman is not endowed with powers, but Brahman makes everything else act. I gave you the analogy the other day, right? The thing is, if you hold a mirror to the, behind my home, you hold a mirror and the sun rises in the front, the sun gets reflected in the mirror, and the sun, lightens up my room on the other end, right? Just because of the reflection on the sun, it lightens up the room in the back of my home early morning. And also the room gets heated up because of the mirror, right? The mirror, reflects the sun's energy, both light energy and the heat energy. So even though the reflection is not the sun, it's making the room lighted and hot. So the energy belongs to all this, the upadhis, but that has no attributes. That's how Śaṅkarācārya says. So power is not the attribute. Being the witness is not the attribute of Paramatma. Paramatma is asanga, untouched. You cannot even talk. That is why it is not denotable. So in every cognition, it is just a witness in a secondary sense. It's not directly a witness also. It's a little hard to understand, right? But you have to say, Śaṅkarācārya is trying to avoid this attribute issue 100%. Śaṅkarācārya does not agree with attributes of Brahman.
So Brahman is neither the known nor the unknown. So he is beyond the intellect. And in that case, the Vidya that is being propounded here is something different that we don't know.
Vidya means what?
The Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman, that itself we don't know then in that case.
So what does Vidya Vindate Amṛtam means what, right?
Yes.
So there Śaṅkarācārya says, it is the continue in every cognition, if I realize that there is a witness and these cognitions are occurring in a state where Ātman is only a witness, and if that person realizes, then he will get immortality. Basically, what do you mean by immortality? He will cease to exist. Jiva and the Jiva's life cease to exist. In that sense, what is remaining is only Ātman, which is immortal, which is endless, which is stateless, which is transformationless, but pure consciousness. Consciousness is not the attribute. So, Vidya can only deny what is not Brahman. Vidya can eliminate what is not Brahman. That's all.
Correct.
So Vidya also occurs to the person who is ignorant, who is again in the realm of relative reality, not absolute reality. Do you understand?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, Śaṅkarācārya says even the Kaṇāda view is not acceptable because in the Kaṇāda view, he is proposing a connect between mind and self, and which self cannot have any connection. One more thing is, the moment there is a connection, there is attachment. Śaṅkarācārya says attachment should not be there, no clinging. So Ātman should pure and non-clinging. So that is not acceptable. And only a thing with an attribute can connect with something else which has an attribute. So attributeless does not have any connection. So Ātman is again unqualified, devoid of distinction, different from everything. One second. So hence it is against reason to hold that what is unqualified, devoid of distinction, different from everything, unites or comes into contact with anything of a different nature. So what is completely unqualified, devoid of distinction, cannot come in touch with anything else. Thus the conclusion that Brahman is the self, eternal, and of the nature of never disappearing intelligence can be established only when the self is identical with the witness of all perceptions and not otherwise. Therefore, the meaning of pratibodha-viditam is as we have explained. So for pratibodha-viditam, Śaṅkarācārya says, Atma cannot be known. So only you know the states of consciousness. When you say, I have different states of consciousness, then whatever is witnessing it is separate. And your states of consciousness, my states of consciousness, everything is being witnessed by one witness, which is not even witnessing in a way. Untouched. This is the only way you can explain this verse according to Śaṅkarācārya. And he says the other views have disadvantages because they go against the statements of the Shrutis. And my view, according to Śaṅkarācārya, Śaṅkarācārya's view says that that is valid. It explains and it does not deviate from any statement of the Upanishads or Vedas.
For me, question. Yeah. In the previous slide, the third last line in the previous slide. Oh, the next one. The latest slide that you were showing. Yeah, this one. The self is identical with the witness of all perceptions. So it doesn't really say that self is the witness of all perceptions, right? It is identical with the witness. So the witness is something other than the self, right?
No,
is it the
self is here? What his meaning is, self is the same as witness.
Okay.
Yeah, same as witness. But the thing is, he will deny the witness aspect of it eventually. Śaṅkarācārya always, look, I told you a long time back, Śaṅkarācārya's method of explanation is very different. He says that is the reality. That is the process of realization. Initially, you think that I am, I am stuck in this life. I have these problems to solve. My job is not good. I'm not happy with the job. I have to get rid of this job or somehow, find a new job or whatever it is. So you think that you are the person stuck. Then he says, this is your mind. You're not the person stuck. The mind is creating all these things. You're free. So everywhere, then who is this you? You. Who is this you who are free? Then you start digging deeper into who you are. Then he says, really speaking, that you is associated with my body, mind, and intellect. Then who is this I? It is only self. It is not attached to any body. It is not attached to any particular mind. It is not attached to any intellect of anything. It's pure consciousness. But what is this consciousness? You cannot know what that consciousness is because there is no attribute. There is nothing in this universe which can relate to that. So in no way, in terms of the knowledge and the link, the terminology we are using in this universe, can you express that Brahman who is of a different kind. The universal language cannot explain Brahman. But that is the absolute which is making you, me, and everything operate in this universe. But that's just the basis.
So is according to Śaṅkarācārya, the witness not the reflection or jiva, if at all I can use that word?
No, witness has no reflection, right? Witness is just one which is observing. But actually, eventually he will say the Brahman never observes. But for now, we can say Brahman is observing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Just one question here, maybe deviating, but does Śaṅkarācārya mean when he initially says that self is identical with the witness of all perceptions, and finally he says that self is not at all the witness? In that case, does he mean that when self is identical with the witness, that self is the Saguna Brahman, and when it is not identical, it is the Nirguṇa Brahman?
See, even Saguna Brahman is only an appearance to Śaṅkarācārya, right? If from this point of this universe, you think, if you take away the limitations of a jiva and Ishvara, look at the jiva and Ishvara, right? Jiva is the person who thinks that, oh, I am stuck, I have this, I have to do this. If I don't do this, I will not get this. So I have to work on this. I have to perfect. I'm not happy in this life. I have to find something better. Then, okay, if I do yajna, yaga, this maybe Indraloka is better. No, that is also not better because I'll come back again. So I want to find something permanent. And you keep on going towards permanence. Then you say, okay, if I pray to Krishna, who is all powerful and nice and very kind and helper, he's a friend philosopher, and to everybody, maybe I will get away from this mess. So you have this view of, okay, all my life would be dedicated to please Krishna. And then you think that is Brahman. And when you go deeper and deeper and deeper, there is no distinction between the you, the seeker, Brahman, or anything else. And everything will go away. What remains is Nirguṇa Brahman. So becomes Saguna Brahman is just appearance behind the Nirguṇa Brahman. It's just appearance of the Nirguṇa Brahman in this relative world for Śaṅkarācārya, right? Do you understand?
Yes, yeah.
So there is only one Brahman according to Śaṅkarācārya, so Nirguṇa only. But we mistake that Nirguṇa Brahman to be the Saguna Brahman initially. And that's the right thing to do because we are in darkness. We first have to hold on to something which is better than our darkness. So see, only problem with the Śaṅkarācārya's view, according to the other people, is Śaṅkarācārya does not accept in different levels of reality. He only accepts two levels. One is absolute, one is relative. And everything is relative becomes one reality. Relative real. And that all goes away, right? Relative reality will just vanish. In that there is no gradation. And other acharyas want gradation in this relative reality. We'll come to that later. It's a hard question, hard thing to think about at this point.
Okay.
So Śaṅkarācārya justifies his thought and say, therefore, the meaning of this pratibodha-viditam means you have to accept that the self is witness but no attributes for that self. Now you go further. What if somebody says, knowing by one's own self, can I know myself? Can self know itself? Śaṅkarācārya denies it. I can know myself only when I get conditioned. Because I get conditioned through mind or some intelligence or something, then only I can know myself. But self is unconditioned. So because self is unconditioned, it can never know itself. So it cannot be known by itself, nor by anybody else. Why does self need to know? Self is consciousness itself. It doesn't need any second principle to know itself. Saying that if I have a light bulb here, I don't need another light bulb to go search this light, right? Oh, where did I keep this light bulb? Let me bring a torch and find out where this light bulb. You don't do it because Brahman is consciousness itself. So you don't, Brahman makes everything happen. So Brahman is self-revealed. Brahman doesn't know itself.
Swami, question.
Nobody else can know Brahman also. So all our knowledge is relative. If I say I came there was no tiger, then tiger came, then I know the tiger. That is all in the Vyavaharika universe. What is a Vyavaharika? A relative universe. There is a knower, there are known, there are means to know. All these things are Vyavaharika. And that Vyavaharika is only an appearance of the reality. The reality is unknown. Adiji, what's up? What is your question?
Swami, this Bhartṛprapañca is what is self-revealed, is it? Is it not self-known? It knows itself is not the right way to say it, is it?
No,
it doesn't need.
No. Svatapramanya is a different thing. Don't use that word.
Okay. Okay. So it doesn't know itself. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't know itself.
The term is used in a different context, not in this context.
It is self-revealed.
Self-luminous. That is, Brahman is always known, but is not known as an object.
Okay. Okay.
That's all. The very fact that I know this, I know that, I know this, I'm doing this, the very fact that there is somebody acting or thinking or something, which is that Brahman is enabling this, that's all. Brahman is somewhere up there, witness. Because of Brahman, all these things are happening. So in the pratibodha-viditam, Śaṅkarācārya says, in every state of my mind, what is the witness of all these states? That is Brahman. And it is unconnected with all the states. It's just common to all the states as being separate. Just like the space is there all the time. Whether you put a cup or a jar or a home or any cave space or what space, space is untouched in that way. So now let's go a little bit further. What is the time now? It's almost an hour. I'll just quickly go through this, and next time I will revisit it in a different way so that we understand better. Śaṅkarācārya takes up the idea of Buddhist idea, right? If we understand self-consciousness in the Buddhist sense, knowledge becomes momentary. This is a Kshanikavada principle. See, what happened in Buddhism is what Buddha said is different from Buddhism because Buddhism was developed later. Buddha says everything is momentary. What in the sense that, I get this and I lose this. I get health and the health will go away. I get life and the life will go away when people die. So everything seems to be momentary. In that sense, Buddha used it. But the Buddhists or the systematizer later on thought that everything is khanika, every moment. So every moment it is lost. Something is born and something is lost. Then I basically one moment transfers its content to the next moment, and that moment dies. So the content of one next moment transfers to the next moment, and that dies. That is their principle. And what do you call? There are a lot of people who did dislike this view. Jain Mallisena in Syadvada Manjari goes and attacks a Buddhist view of Kshanikavada. But the Buddha's idea may be different, but the system went and became like this. In that, sarvam kshanikam kshanikam, everything is momentary. So the Buddhist principles are a few, right? Sarvam kshanikam kshanikam, sarvam dukkhamayam. Everything only gives you sorrow. Sarvam swalakshanam. Everything has its own nature. So these are some three, I forgot one more. There are 4 principles of Buddhism, right? And again, there are several schools, Vijnanavada, Yogacara, Mahayana, different systems are there, right? So in Buddhism. But this is only one aspect of Buddhism. What he says that if you think that self itself is kshanika, it contradicts everything in the scripture. Buddhism may say, I don't care about your Vedas and scriptures anyway, right? So that is not what his Śaṅkarācārya says. Vedas are important, and whatever Buddhists may think, whatever they think, I don't care. Whether they believe in the Vedas or not, I don't care. Their view is wrong according to the Vedas, because Vedas support an eternal self, which is never eliminated, which never disappears. Na vijñātuh vijñātehe viparilopo vartate. There is no disappearance of the knowledge of the knower. It is mighty and all-pervading, the Mundaka Upanishad says. It is undecaying, undying, immortal, fearless. So then he takes up the idea of pratibodha-viditam should be taken as a deep sleep, causeless, or some sudden enlightenment or something like that. And again, he says, one second. So whether it is sudden or intrinsic or extrinsic, self is still what is known through a state of consciousness. Because Amṛtatvam, deathlessness abiding in its own self, liberation, because Vindate is obtained. So this is obtained, right? Since liberation, one second. The liberation is attained by means of what is known through states of consciousness. What is so known is assured, rightly known. The self is the inmost essence of a notion, and knowledge relating to the self is the cause of immortality. Becoming what self is, becoming what is a non-self can never be said to form immortality. And since immortality is but being one's own self, it cannot be caused by anything extraneous. Similarly, mortality for the self is due to mistaking it from nescience for what is different from it. One more, what he's trying to say is, liberation is never caused. Oh, now I became liberated. Now I became realized. That is never happening. That's not that. What do you call, sun is shining and the clouds are covering up. When the cloud goes away, then sun shines. You cannot say, oh, sun now started shining. Before that, sun was not shining. You cannot say that, right? Sun is always shining. But the clouds come and go. Similarly, our ignorance come and go. But the sun is always there. In the case of Advaita, it is more complex. The very fact that we exist as jiva, the very fact that we have ignorance, all of that is unreal. It never occurred, but we feel it right now because we are relatively in this. Once this association that I am the mind, I am the thinker, I am this one goes away, there's only one self, that is Ātman, who was never bound to start with. So this is a wonderful prelude to his own shloka. Have you heard of the shloka called Nirvāṇa-ṣaṭkam? Nirvāṇa-ṣaṭkam, the 6 verses?
Yes.
Do you remember that? Anybody?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. See, that is Nirvāṇa-ṣaṭkam. Buddhi, mano, ahankara, chittani naham. Right? He says, I am not the mind, I am not the intelligence, I am not the ego, I am not the storage, mind storage called chitta. I am not the ears, I am not the tongue, I am not the nose, I am not the sky, I am not the earth, I am not energy, I am not the wind, I am Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am Chit, that is the blissful consciousness. I am not the prana or the breath. I am not the different breaths in our pancha vayus, like prana, apana, vyana and all. I am not the matter made, the 7 different elements which make up my body. I am not the hand, I am not the leg. I don't have any fear or hatred. I don't have jealousy or any of those characteristics. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha doesn't belong to me. I don't need moksha because I am always pure and I am always realized. Punya and papa does not refer to me. I don't, I don't have any sukha or dukkha. I don't need mantra or tirtha or going to a pilgrimage. I am not the eater nor the eater. I am only pure consciousness. Death will not bother me. I don't fear death. I don't have any caste system. I don't have a father or a mother. I don't have any relatives or friends. I am pure consciousness, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am Nirvikalpa, Nirakara. I don't have form. I don't have any change. I am ever present, all omniscient, omnipresent. I am not connected to any of my senses or anybody's senses. I am pure consciousness. See, this is the idea of Nirvāṇa-ṣaṭkam of Śaṅkarācārya, which gives a beautiful shloka view of his philosophy. One second. Oops.
I mean, it's interesting to note that in this translation, this is from Hiriyana, right? Professor Hiriyana.
Correct.
He translates the word Amṛtatvam as deathlessness. Mrita means life, right? So Amrita means deathless. Yeah, so the word immortality seems to denote life after death to something that is born. But then the self, according to Śaṅkarācārya, is never born, right?
Never born.
So it's deathlessness of something that is, so death is for something that is born in the first place.
True, exactly. Yes.
So the way he has the definition of Amrita as deathless is very interesting, rather than using the word immortal.
True. Yeah, true. So what we can do is today, gone about 10 minutes beyond. I started very late. Sorry for the whole thing. Tonight I'm traveling, so I had to do some quick. I didn't want to let go of this opportunity because I've already last week we lost the class. So next week I'll try to keep the class for sure. I'll announce the timings. I'm sure I can manage this timing. I just I will not have I will manage somehow, right? Any more questions before we stop this? So what I will do is today roughly we picked up the Buddhist view, Kaṇāda view, and Bhartṛprapañca view, and Śaṅkarācārya denied all the views and says this is what it is. Okay. In the next class, we'll probably try to give you a little bit more details. I will see what is missing and try to fill in on missing things. Okay. All right. Oh, by the way, I did not explain to you in this class the actual sentences of Sanskrit. I took Hiranya's quick summary and gave you the information from Hiranya. Next time, I'll probably pick up the Sanskrit of Śaṅkarācārya, and if there are any more subtle things he wants to say, we'll pick that up. Hopefully, this is going on. Let me ask you a question. Is this method of learning very complicated for you, and it's hard and not easy?
No, this is easier than anything else.
Okay. Okay, everybody agree?
Yeah, I
It is
also
very
feel
good.
this.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, this is the this way we can interact and then learn. The key thing is to like our brain has to take it. It cannot be transferred. Like we have to realize. So
True.
this
Will
way
be
of learning, this way of learning will make us realize instead of having some understanding and then thinking, oh yeah, I have understood. No, this way of learning is much better. Yeah.
See, it's very interesting how Śaṅkarācārya maintains the non-changeability of Ātman, right? Just like he in another, in the Bhagavad Gita shloka, Kūtasthaha, he mentions, right? He gives the analogy of a anvil where, you would if you want to make iron form something out of iron, right? First you heat up the iron and make it red hot, and you take it up and take a hammer and beat it and shape the metal, the iron into some other shape you want, right? In that, the anvil is the surface on which you beat, but the anvil does not deform. What deforms is the object you want to change.
Yeah, very true.
All changes occur to the other than the anvil. So the Kūtastha is Atma, self, where it is the basis, it is the surface from which all things happen. It is on the anvil only you can shape things. So the universal activities occur, but the anvil does not change. Atma does not change. So he maintains the purity of Atman, that even though it is in front or something like that, it is never ever involved with this universe. That's an interesting.
That's thanks for sharing that. That puts a very different perspective. Yeah, that annual concept. It's very true.
See, your question is. The beauty about Śaṅkara, see, we are all trying to understand the theory of Śaṅkara. But what Śaṅkarācārya says, if you really do meditation or whatever the methods he gives, you can actually realize. So obviously Śaṅkarācārya is talking from actual realization, not just theoretical, oh, I just thought of this wonderful idea, I'm going to share this idea with you. That's not that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Asmadgurubhyo namaha, Asmadparamagurubhyo namaha, Sarvagurubhyo namaha, Shri Krishna Parabrahmane namaha, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Parabrahmane namaha, Shri Lakshmi Hayavadana Parabrahmane namaha, Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Start.
Wish you safe journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of work to do.